Zoom webinar, the new technology that we're all getting more and more used to. We appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your schedules today. We're very honored to have all 4 candidates that are running for the position 2 and position 3 Oregon City Commission seats. They would be Denyse McGriff and Dave Hayden for position 2, and Frank McDonald and Jeff Akin for position 3. Obviously, we've been going through some very challenging times during these last several months as we've dealt with the pandemic's effects, not only on our businesses, but in our personal lives as children are still at home and parents and families are learning to adapt to teaching from home while balancing their professional work schedules. And I'm sure many of you that are watching today and participating in this Zoom webinar have had to deal with those personal situations yourself. We're going to be doing a opening statement today by all 4 candidates, and then we will go into a rotation of the various position candidates, taking turns as to who will speak first. The opening statements will consist of 2 minutes each. They'll get a little bell at around 15 seconds, letting them know that their time is about up. So it's time to wrap up their closing comments. Then we've got some questions that we've already planned to go ahead and ask them. And then we'll be going into a live Q&A session where the various candidates will be given the questions in a random order. And then we'll close with the final statements from each one of the candidates. But first of all, I wanted to personally, on behalf of the Oregon City Business Alliance, thank each and every one of you for stepping up for this position. I've attended many Planning Commission and City Commission public hearings, and I know in addition to just the time you see you there at those events, there's a lot that goes into reading the staff reports, doing work sessions in anticipation of the public hearings. And each and every one of my board members gratefully thanks you for the sacrifice that you've made in this endeavor. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce one of my other board members, Dan Fowler, who will go ahead and start the opening statements with position 2, and then we will go to the Q&A. So Dan, it's all yours.
Okay, and I'll say I don't see Frank on yet, but we are working on some technical things with him, and hopefully he will be joining us. So, I think we're just getting Frank. Awesome. We're gonna wait just a moment, and maybe I think he's now connected. So, Denyse, let's start with you with your opening statement, and we'll proceed then with Dave and followed by Frank. And then Frank, welcome.
It was a struggle, but I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, Denyse.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. And from your kitchens or your bedrooms or your studies or wherever you are, thank you for joining this webinar. I want to thank the board and members of the Oregon City Business Alliance for the opportunity to have a conversation with all of you. Just a little bit about me, for those of you that don't know me. I've been a resident of Oregon City since 1988. I also have family roots in Clackamas County. My family on the other side of the family owns farms, and we have 2 century farms in our family. So that if you don't know what that means, it means that they're over 100 years old, dating back to 1874 for the earliest one and 1872 for the other one. I was raised my family here in the Berkeley Hills and McLaughlin neighborhoods. And I'm also the daughter of a career military officer and enlisted man. My dad served for many, many years, and I spent most of my early childhood on military bases before moving to Oregon later on in my life. So I've had a long career in the public sector. During that time, I also did some private sector business consulting for some of my clients that I had in City of Oregon City and in Portland. My current occupation is I'm a community volunteer. I volunteer for the city, and I also volunteer on several boards and commissions for the City of Oregon City, in addition to some that are in the region in the Portland area, and also one board that I serve on, which is based out of Washington, D.C. That is the National Trust for Historic Preservation. I represent the state of Oregon. My current position, as I said, is a volunteer. I work on behalf of the community of City of Oregon City as your current city commissioner in position number 2. And it was previously said by Mr. Ziegler, yes, it is a lot of work, but I want you to know that I bring my volunteerism, my skills, and my talents to the city, and my job is to work on behalf of you. I'm very pleased that the community has been so welcoming to me over the years. It's sort of a payback in a way. They talk about pay it forward. I owe a great deal of debt to Oregon City for many of the things that have come to me because of the fact that I live here. And my service to you as a commissioner and the other boards I serve on in our community are my payback to you, to make sure that you know that I'm grateful for everything that I've been given, and I'm so appreciative of it. So I'm giving back to you in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Denyse. Okay, we're going to follow Denyse with Dave Hayden. I'm also in position 2. Dave, welcome. You're muted, Dave. You got to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Dan. Well, I appreciate all the candidates, being here, and all the participants showing up to hear our about each of us and our backgrounds and how we hope to best serve the community. Myself, I was born and raised in Oregon City. I went to Gaffney Lane and Gardner and Oregon City High School down on Jackson. I have great memories of shooting model rockets off in the field at Gardner and working at Danielson's in Willamette Falls in high school. And I've lived in other areas of the state, but I came back to Oregon City because it's a great city. I mean, we've got the river at our doorsteps, and we've got great cities around us. Portland's got, it's good points and bad points, but it's a great resource when you need a metro area. My background, the last 15 years, I've been running a small business. Prior to that, I worked as a newspaper photographer and an air freight driver and a wholesale sales rep, among other things. And my main goal is to bring a small business attitude to the council, to look at things perhaps differently than we have in the past, and to work together to find solutions that work for everybody. That's really the gist of my introduction.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. Thank you, Dave. Okay, we'll move to position 3, and we'll start with the incumbent, Frank O'Donnell. Frank, you have a couple minutes to introduce yourself. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Well, first, I want to thank the Oregon City Business Alliance for putting this on. It has value, much like their monthly seminars or monthly meetings. It's value to our business community. It's valuable to me as the incumbent commissioner, and you've seen me there many times, so you know me. And I've been a frequent attendee. And so I'll tell you about myself personally. I moved here and built my home here and chose to build my home here in 1994. Started off with my wife and a 6 and a 9-year-old, went through the school system with them, coached in Oregon City youth sports, was a community activist, oftentimes taking the city to task if I felt that their approach to something was unjust or flawed in some way. Those things were specific. They're not necessary to mention now, but it had to do with water rates and possible retroactive laws. Educationally, I think it's important to know who I am, what I bring to the commission. I have a 4-year undergraduate degree, a bachelor's, and that is in pre-law, and that's also in economics and business. And I also have an associate degree in science, which is a civil engineering degree, which serves me very well when I'm sitting up there and getting potentially overwhelmed by the amount of information we get. I also had a real estate license way back when, and I haven't forgotten that. And I am not a practicing real estate person, but the value of that has been good to me. So, why I like being here today is Oregon City Business Alliance is a group of business people. And 4 years ago when I ran because I didn't want a commission that was made up of the public sector, because you business owners know darn well that there's a different view towards business from the private sector and public, that you've got to make every month, and you've got a profit and loss statement, and you've got to stay above water. And I wanted to bring that perspective, because the private sector doesn't have unlimited access to funds. They got to control both the sales end of things, the income end, and the expenditures end. So in my professional life, why I say I'm about business, I've spent 30 years in business development, and that ended with working for a company called Fastenal, which is a $6 billion company. And I had the Western United States from the Mississippi River to the Pacific. And we were the most successful group in the whole company. And as a result, it's all about business development. And for me, when you provide a solution, you get a sale. So in the end, it's all about growing income and controlling expenditures. And now I'm in a position with all these government programs that maybe we can help our businesses here, both small and large. And that's my goal. My goal is livability. It's kind of a balancing act between livability and providing opportunity to both live here and work here. So that's a lot in a nutshell, and I'll leave it at that and say thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Just a reminder to everyone listening, we will have a Q&A session following the questions that I ask here in a little bit. So if you're thinking of a question now or later on, feel free to type it in the Q&A. Okay, so next, also position 3, Jeff Atkins. Jeff, the time is yours, 2 minutes.
Thanks, Dan. And it's Jeff Akin.
Akins, I'm sorry. Yeah, I realized I said it wrong as soon as I said it.
It's okay. I've been called worse. But thank you, Dan, the Oregon City Business Alliance, for this great opportunity to talk about who we are and what we plan to do to help support this great city. So I'm Jeff Akin. I am a relatively new resident to Oregon City. I've been here just about 2.5 years, but my family has deep roots. My wife's family goes back to the 30s in here. Her grandparents used to live down on High Street, and my aunt, uncle, and cousins live here today and have lived here for just about their whole lives as well. So I have a real vested interest in this community. It just took me a little bit longer to get here than some people. I have a 5-year-old daughter who is, I'm a little biased, but she's pretty incredible. And I'm really excited to be raising her here in Oregon City. On top of that, I work full-time for the Oregon Department of Human Services. I've worked for the state of Oregon for 15 years and have a lot of passion for the work that I do, helping people that desperately need it. In that time, I've been able to work with the Oregon State Legislature. I've drafted legislation and have helped pass laws that have improved the quality of life for individuals living in long-term care. So I have a lot of experience in the public sector. And part of what makes me unique is I also have a lot of experience in the private sector. I'm a small business owner. I own a small company that does media production, also does public speaking events and event planning, and produces podcasts and videos and things like that for other businesses. I've also worked in entertainment for quite a long time. In fact, some of you might recognize me from a number of years on Channel 12. I brought you some of the best professional wrestling in the Pacific Northwest. And in that time, I owned a number of entertainment companies working to make that number at the bottom black and as big as possible. And so I bring that ability of understanding how to navigate and be successful in the public sector. In fact, my work streamlining government has been acknowledged, and there's an article written in Governing magazine, which is distributed nationally, about the work I've done to streamline government services here in Oregon, but also what it takes to run a small business in a very challenging environment that is always hard for a small business owner. I believe a lot in our city, and I believe a lot in bringing people together to best solve problems that come forward and to identify opportunities. I'm really excited for the opportunity to run and the opportunity to answer your questions today. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeff. So we're going to jump in. I have 4 prepared questions. I'm going to actually ask each of you. And then we're going to open up to questions from the people on the Zoom call, and we'll go from there. I'm going to rotate the questions. We're going to go backwards. So Jeff, I'm going to start with you, then we're going to go to Frank, and then I'll go to Dave and then Denyse, and then we'll reverse the order on the next question. So the first question I have for you is, we have a closed landfill at one of the ends of our city, on the northern side of our city. Do you support its redevelopment? Why or why not? And what do you see as its future and its contribution to Oregon City?
I do see the importance in that being redeveloped and a lot of opportunity on that incredible piece of land that we have there. When I think about that landfill, I think about Oregon City as a whole and kind of where we are. We've talked a lot in recent years about becoming a destination for tourists to come here and to build this. And I know there's a lot of work. We have an incredible main street that draws people here. We have the Riverwalk project that is moving forward and will draw countless people here as that progresses. But what I see that landfill and the opportunity there is to create and kind of complete the experience of Oregon City for individuals that come here to Oregon City as a destination, or as obviously for people that are living here and working here as well. I think there's a lot of opportunity. Now, I want to be clear, there have been plans made in this area, but I think that some of the plans for that are old enough that they could probably qualify to get their driver's license at this point. And I think we have to have that agility and an ability to relook at things and see an opportunity when we have it. But I can see that area being developed, some sort of a multi-use business and possibly entertainment sector that could complete the destination or be a keystone in the destination makeup of Oregon City that we're working to achieve. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff. Frank, next to you, same question. We have a landfill at that entrance. Do you support its redevelopment? And then why or why not? And what do you see its future and contribution to the city?
Well, I most certainly support its development. The interest in that piece of dirt is incredibly high by a number of large corporations and others. And our challenge is how to develop it. It's currently owned by a private party. The challenge is putting the private party and the private parties together and then deciding what role government will play. And interestingly, that's also falls within our urban renewal zone, which we also we're working our way through that. And in fact, for those that are interested in getting an education on urban renewal, please tune in on the 29th. There's a start of a seminar, which I'm chair of urban renewal. I think it's a great tool. I think it can be used effectively. I think this would be a site to which we should apply it. We just need the right candidate to come in. And then we have to consider the impact on this city, both in terms of job creation, in terms of traffic. And quite honestly, there's the thing called the jug handle, which was made to handle traffic there. That's a step in the right direction. So I would certainly support it. I think urban renewal, hopefully we'll get community support for that, it was a narrow vote last time, but I think we can and the purpose of this educational thing we're putting on is education. It's not marketing. But I think once people understand how to effectively use urban renewal and apply it to here, it'll be a tremendous tool to use. Now, if you look at Home Depot, they went in there and they built without the aid of urban renewal, and it cost them more than they anticipated in building that. But guess what? That Home Depot store is probably the single most busy and profitable store in the entire chain. So we're sitting on a piece of real estate property that is incredible. We need to qualify those people who approach us. We need to vet them, make sure they have the financial wherewithal to do it, and make sure that their plan fits within the total view of this community. Understanding that is one of the entranceways to the end of the Oregon Trail. How do we want to most effectively use it? And how do we do that without adversely impacting the life of our existing residents? So I think it's a great piece of land. I think I'm never going to lose track of it because we need to get that developed into something that contributes to the overall value of this community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Yep.
Dave, same question. It's there, the landfill. Do you support its redevelopment? Why or why not? And what do you see as its future contribution to the city?
I think we may even be unanimous on this topic. Yeah, I have memories of actually using the landfill there. In the 90s, I talked to Mr. Rossman, who was the original owner. And I'm excited about the whole, not just the landfill area, but the whole north end. There, we have a great restaurant there at the train depot, Coasters. We have potentially a hotel going in that area. And there's so much more opportunity there. And as Frank mentioned, it's part of Oregon City's urban renewal district. And we have to be really careful about that, because urban renewal is a great tool to help us get to the city we want to be. But at the same time, we have to be careful about the money we spend there. And we have to be careful about the effect it has on some of the taxing districts. The Clackamas Fire District 1 has some concerns there. Nothing that we can't address and work with, but we need to be careful of that. But yes, I fully support the development of not only the landfill, but the surrounding area that's underutilized.
Okay, very good. Well, Denyse, you've heard me ask it 3 times. I'm sure you know the question, but we have the.
Go right ahead and just repeat the whole thing.
Yeah, we have a closed landfill at the north entrance to our city. Do you support its redevelopment? Why or why not? And how do you see it fitting into the future? And how do you see it contributing to the city?
Well, I'm going to take not completely different from my colleagues here on the call, but what I want to talk about is the entire urban renewal district that is downtown. We have to look at it as a whole, not as individual pieces of property. I think that the entire area has a great deal of potential for redevelopment. And I've been working one way or the other, either as a private citizen or as a city employee on that particular area since 1988, when I started working for the city of Oregon City. So what I want to get to is, yes, the area needs to be redeveloped. It is blighted, it is underutilized, and it could be helping Oregon City pay its fair share in taxes. Being said that, I want to also talk a little bit about the fact that the city is in the process of developing an economic development strategy. And the reason why I bring this up is that the economic development strategy is going to allow us as a community to target parcels with development that we want, not development that somebody comes into our community and says, we have a great deal for you. We want you to do this. We want to be able to go out to development community and say, we've got these great parcels, including the landfill, and here's what we anticipate. And this is what our community says that they want on these parcels. Here's a range of options for you. What can you do for us? Agreeing with Frank, we need to have RFPs, RFQs, so that we vet the development community persons, whoever they are, that are coming to our town, so that we know that they have the financial wherewithal, they have the ethical wherewithal, and they are going to do right by Oregon City. We have not really done this very well in the past, and I think that has a lot to do with why people are not really excited about urban renewal. But I think it has a great deal of potential. I have 17 years of experience working in urban renewal, specifically with small business community, in helping them redevelop their properties, expand their properties, anything that they needed. And I want to bring my considerable experience and know-how to that process with this economic development strategy so that we can get the right development for Oregon City. We've got to have livability at the top of the chart. We also don't want to have our community burdened by excess taxes that might come of this, but we also want to do our fair share as a district. So I am hoping that through our process of the urban renewal education plan, that we can come to a conclusion. Again, I'm not anticipating it, but my idea is that yes, it's a tool. We need to help people understand what it is. And if they tell us we've got the green light, sky's the limit in terms of developing the North End.
Okay. Thank you all for that. I'm going to stay with some questions about downtown, maybe just one more time here. I recently heard, and this might fit in a little bit with what you were just saying, Denyse. I recently heard, let me see who I'm going to direct this first question to. We're going to, Jeff did that. So we're going to go back to Dave and then Denyse. And then we're going to go to Frank and then Jeff. So I recently heard that there were 2 offers to purchase actually property downtown that is in the urban renewal district at 10th and Main and 12th and Main, both being mixed use with housing. Do you support getting these properties back on the tax rolls, and why or why not?
Well, a lot of downtown has been redeveloped successfully, and it's incredible. I really like the idea of getting some mixed use housing development down there, so I would support it. I think that's something that we'll hopefully also see at the other end of downtown at the mill property. So much potential, and we need to work with our private owners. We don't want to be telling them everything they're going to be doing. We want to partner with them and work to improve the city in that way. But yes, I would fully support mixed use and housing in the downtown area.
Okay. Denyse, same question. I've recently heard there's 2 offers to purchase and redevelop the urban renewal parcels at 10th and Main, 12th and Main, both being using mixed use housing and housing. Do you support getting these back on the tax rolls? Why or why not?
Well, absolutely, yes, I support getting them back on the tax rolls. However, let me clarify, the property at 12th and Main has not been, no offer has been made at this point that we are aware of. I have talked to those folks and I am very aware of it. And it gave them a little bit of advice on how to approach the city. The property at 10th and Main has been in play for a while. And for many of you who don't know, it's tied up with the fact that we are trying very desperately to get a quiet zone there. Unfortunately, we don't have the budget for the quiet zone at this point in time, and $2 million is kind of on the table, and we're a little bit at the mercy of Union Pacific. We don't get to tell them what to do. They kind of get to tell you what to do. So it's not off the table, but yes, I think a mixed use development there that fits in with downtown is very appropriate. It's in the current plan right now. But again, let me go back to our economic development strategy. I think the 12th and Main property has not been vetted fully. And I really anticipate that through the economic development strategy, we're going to come up with a number of options through our community. They're going to let us know what they feel and what they think about what is the best thing to put there. I'm not talking about the highest and best use. I'm talking about the best use that fits into the plan and program for the city of Oregon City and our residents. But if it happens to be mixed use, I think that'd be great. The property's got some constraints which can be worked through. We've got utility easements through that property, which is one of the reasons why it's not really been built on before, but it's a potential. We've got plans in place. And I think, again, using our considerable resources to help leverage the redevelopment of those properties is where the city of Oregon City needs to go.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jeff, same question. I've recently heard there's an interest to purchase properties at 10th and Main and 12th and Main, both involving housing and mixed use. Would you support that? Why or why not?
Absolutely. I don't know about any of you, but how cool would it be to live downtown? Right.
Mhm.
I think this is a thing that helps everyone. I think, to answer the question bluntly, getting on the tax rolls is absolutely a great thing. But on top of that, we're talking about people who can, doing a development that will allow people to have a cool house, a great place to live, bragging rights, living downtown, but also kind of a built-in customer base. Because I don't know you, but if I'm living in that area, I'm going to be out walking the street. I'm going to be out, supporting all the businesses up and down Main Street and in the surrounding area. I think it's a great direction to move. I think that it enriches just everything about Main Street in our downtown area and does an incredible amount to help our city. Generally speaking, I'm a strong proponent for looking at affordable housing options for people. I think there's a definite gap in our housing options in Oregon City right now. That being said, that doesn't mean affordable housing to the exclusion of all other housing. And the the plan for that area is exciting. I agree with Commissioner McGriff. There are some on that property there, at least on 10th there's some definite constraints, but I mean, that's where our great development community comes in to try and help, propose how they're going to bridge those. But yeah, I think this is a great thing that I would support wholly. Thank you.
Okay. And Frank, I've recently heard that there are two interest in purchasing those two properties at 10th and Main, 12th and Main, both involving housing. Would you support getting those back on the tax rolls? Why or why not?
Well, I am always supportive of putting properties back on the tax rolls. These properties are interesting in that they are urban renewal properties, essentially an extension of the city, but urban renewal. And urban renewal, and I'll speak as the chair of urban renewal, currently in limbo. And we're trying to, this teaching session we're embarking on, starting on the 29th, is to educate our citizens such that they can provide educated input as to the future of urban renewal. That's the goal of this upcoming seminar. The other part is, and we were just talking about this the other, we need to freshen up those appraisals on those pieces of land. I mean, the last time we looked at them, those are dated appraisals. And before we enter into any sale agreements, which we don't feel at liberty to at the moment, we need to understand the value of those properties and understand that it is certainly going up. I mean, if you look at our future with the Willamette Falls project and our attempt as a community to do a total offering, we need shopping, we need restaurants. I am so thankful we're getting another hotel on the north end of town, because what that contributes to our welfare is the transient room tax, which is significant. And the north end needed an anchor. So anything, we need to select carefully what we put in those, because we're trying to offer a total package, and that involves dining, shopping, hotels, whatever. And obviously, parking continues to be a problem downtown. So how do we use that, and how do we make it part of the total package? But the short answer is, do you support putting on a tax rolls? Without a doubt, in the most effective way possible, to the greatest benefit of this city. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to rotate again. Frank, I'm going to start with you, then we'll go to Jeff, and then we'll go to Denyse, and then to Dave. One last question, well, maybe not the last one, but that involves downtown. At some point, the courthouse downtown will move to the hilltop. How do you seek making up the activity? How do you see making up the activity it generates in supporting downtown businesses?
Well, currently, the courthouse has by association a number of legal practices, the staff that's there, the associated county employees that work there, and that market will be somewhat of a loss. But the question is, how do you rejuvenate the city as a whole? And once again, that's the role of the Urban Renewal Commission and our business community working in tandem. And I see that as you say it's a loss. We can say it's a loss, but we can also say it's an opportunity. I mean, a structure like that is of interest to people and properly used. And of course, everybody thinks, well, is the next McMinimans? Well, who knows? But let's keep an open mind as to how we develop it, and the courtyard adjacent to it and all the adjacent businesses. So I see us attracting, it's part of the total package offering from Oregon City. Yes, it is tourism based, but it's also job based and residency based. And it would be really easy to say it's a great loss, but sometimes an opportunity presents itself. You just need to view it in the right light. So I see us moving forward with funding, attracting buyers, and offering that total package, because Oregon City needs to be a destination. Remember, I've been here since '94, and I came here way before that. And we are evolving and continuing to evolve from a mill town. And our future involves making good decisions with businesses and existing structures. And historically, they're so beautiful. Let's put them to our best use. So thank you.
Okay, Dave, same question. At some point, the courthouse downtown would move to the hilltop. How do you see making up for the activity it generates in supporting then the downtown businesses?
Well, there are definitely some challenges downtown. The mill property has been setting for over a decade now, and we have to work with our partners, the tribe, to develop that. US Bank is moving out of their downtown Oregon City location. And I'm sure with the virus going on, we'll have some other casualties. But what an opportunity to offer that building and most of that block to a person that can utilize it and develop it and make it a great attraction to downtown. I mean, downtown, we already have great shops and great restaurants. We need housing for sure. We need to support any businesses that are going to be good for the community to move in. Maybe even a hotel on the mill property or something similar. So I think we need to look at the different uses, possible uses, and we need to partner with the people that we think can get it done.
Okay. Jeff, I think I skipped you. Sorry.
All right, we're learning to dance with your rotation.
I really like
Good.
the dance. You know, it's like, picking on somebody when they don't know you're going to get picked on. So same question goes to you. At some point, the courthouse is leaving. How do you see making up for the activity it generates in supporting the downtown businesses?
So a theme we've had in the answers so far is the theme of opportunity. And I cannot agree more, but I think our opportunity doesn't only lie in what can be done in that area, but I think the real opportunity is for the city commission to exercise organizational humility. There are 4 people who sit on the commission, and there's the mayor. We're not all experts, right? And we have communities of experts. In fact, we're with one right now, the Oregon City Business Alliance, and we have the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Oregon City Association. Our real opportunity here are to bring in business experts, people who know the area, people who know the opportunities, who understand the challenges. I think if you were asking this question 9 months ago in the PC times, pre-COVID times, we might have a whole different approach to this, but we don't necessarily know what we're going to look like in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. And so I think this is a great opportunity for us to rely on the bigger brain of Oregon City that exists out there, and for the city commission to really act as a facilitator, a connector, and a collaborator there to help build consensus in that expert community. Yes, there's a great opportunity. What an incredible spot, and there's a lot there that could happen. But I think the real opportunity is for the commission to bring great minds together and demonstrate the big brain. I just made that term up. The big brain that is Oregon City.
Very good. That's a good term. Okay, Denyse. So same thing to you as courthouse is going to leave at some point to the hilltop. How do you see making up for the activity it generates in supporting downtown businesses?
Well, I'm going to follow the lead of my other participants because my word for that property is opportunity. It is a historic and architectural gem. It is an Art Deco building. It has the opportunity to be placed on the National Register of Historic Places, by which then the City of Oregon City and a development partner could leverage historic rehab tax credits. I think it is an opportunity for the building to be looked at as a mixed-use development, including housing and something else. I mean, obviously the ideal in my mind might be the McMinimans, but I don't know if any of you are aware, but they're out looking for funding right now. If you've got $100,000 to throw around, you can invest in the McMinimans property. So a McMinimans, there are other people out there who do that same thing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody from this region, but there are experts in the area that take buildings like that and can rehabilitate them and bring them back to life. I think anything that happens in that courthouse is going to be an opportunity for downtown. I think that we can leverage its redevelopment to strengthen downtown and bring not only residential opportunities, retail opportunities, possibly office opportunities. So there's just, the sky's the limit. Again, we need a tool to help us get there. I don't want to preclude the decision that's going to come out of the urban renewal study, but it's the best tool that we have. And I really want to see that. we have the opportunity to also link that building with what the tribe is doing. Now, I will say that they're a little slow in getting back to us on what their plans are. And so I think we need to push a little bit to get them to tell us what they're doing. We know what they're doing. Let me take that back. We know what they're doing, but they're a little slow on their redevelopment. We have a master plan that links that property to the rest of downtown. And we just need to get the tribes to open up a little more and tell us, because those two are basically bookends for that particular part of downtown. So yes, opportunity is the prime word, and we have the opportunity to reimagine. I have been asking the county about their, sorry, it just keeps popping off, asking the county about their committee that they have, and they have not been meeting. So I think the city needs to push on that and get them to get their courthouse committee together and start meeting again. Thank you.
Okay. Dave, I think I'm going to you first. I don't know if I've done that yet. If I have, forgive me. We're going to go there. We're going to go to housing. There's been numerous articles that have been written recently showing that our region is falling further behind in providing diverse workforce housing for families. Most say that the supply of buildable land is the main cause. What would you be willing to do to address this ongoing crisis in 2021 and beyond?
Well, thanks for coming to me first, Dan.
You're welcome.
Affordable housing has got to be our biggest task, along with keeping the city livable and keeping our quality of life high. But housing has absolutely gone through the roof cost-wise, and the main way we have to fight that is by increasing the housing available. We have land available. We have development plans on the books, the Beaver Creek Road project, perhaps an extension of development out on South End. We really need to get it done. We need to make a focus on it, look at what it's going to take, come up with a plan and a solution, and move forward. And we just have to get it done. There's no other choice. Thank you.
Okay. Denyse, to you, same question. Numerous articles have been written about the region is falling further behind providing diverse workforce housing for families. Most say the supply of buildable land is the main cause. What would you be willing to do to address this ongoing crisis this next year and beyond?
Well, let me back up a little bit and say it's not about what I would be willing to do. It's about what we as a commission would be willing to do. And I think that the commission is committed to taking a look at our existing housing stock, and through the use of a citywide housing inventory, which I have been pushing for a number of years, we will be able to determine what land is available within our current city limits and current urban growth boundary that could be redeveloped. I think, again, using that word imagination and opportunity, we have the opportunity in Oregon City to do some infill. But again, that infill needs to contribute to the livability of the existing residential units around it, but also contribute to providing more housing. One of my goals is to make sure that we have workforce housing available, and that is somewhere between the number basically is 70 to 150% of median family income. And those are the people who are our teachers, who work in our restaurants. They are a number of professions that are not able to get into housing as we know it today. And unfortunately, right now, it's the highest bidder. I mean, just recently, a house around the corner from where I live sold for, I won't say, but it's very, very high. And that's just not what regular people in our community can afford. So I think, again, we've got a comprehensive plan update happening right now. This housing inventory is going to be a part of that. We need to thoughtfully and carefully figure out where those opportunities are, and then allow people to do the infill that we know we can have here in Oregon City. And I really support that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Denyse. Jeff, same question to you. numerous articles in the region, have been written, and we're falling behind in our diverse workforce housing. And it's, they say that buildable land supply is the main cause. What would you be willing to do to address this?
I think those articles are very right. I kind of, to Commissioner McGriff's statement about the house selling, we recently refinanced our home. It's a good time to do so. And we're frankly blown away at the appraisal that came back. It was mind blowing right now. And so I think objectively, there's a real issue that we have here. What do we do about that, though? I think that the state legislature a little while ago passed a bill, House Bill 2001, known as the Missing Middle Bill. And what it did was it told cities kind of how to do business. And that's not always a good thing. But what it opened the door for was us to have duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, et cetera, mixed in with single family homes. And I think that's a really great way to take advantage as we redevelop places and have new developments in place. It's a great way to take advantage of the space, using our space more effectively. Now, I grew up in a neighborhood just like that. I grew up in a single family home. I come from a huge family. There's kids. I've got 5 sisters, 3 brothers. So we lived in a single family home, but my best friend lived in a triplex. There was a quadplex next to them. And I think what the part of the role of the commission in moving forward in this is providing leadership for the people that feel that those types of developments diminish the livability of their neighborhoods, because the reality is it doesn't. As a kid growing up there, it was great. That just meant I had more kids to play with around there. But I think that by just really focusing on, and as everyone has answered so far on this, having the commission really focus on and prioritizing affordable and workforce housing for people, the benefits are huge. In fact, we keep families together in Oregon City. I recall talking to a person walking their dog a while ago who talked about their kids having to move outside of Oregon City because they didn't want to live with mom and dad anymore. Understandable, but couldn't afford to live in Oregon City. So this is a thing that I would definitely help continue the work of the commission in prioritizing. Thanks.
Okay. Frank, same question. Numerous articles have been written recently showing our region is falling further behind in providing diverse workforce housing for families. Most say the buildable land is the main cause. What would you be willing to do to address this ongoing crisis in 2021 and beyond?
Well, there's no question about the situation we're in. It's a market-driven situation, price determined by supply and demand. Government's attempting to intervene and do the right thing and try to make additional opportunities, which they have. I've heard House Bill 2001 referenced. That's about the ability. It's about infill. How do we use land that's not currently being used? It's about conversions. It's about duplexes, triplexes, the additional dwelling units. As far as expansion into outside areas, one always has to consider infrastructure. Do we have the ability to provide water and sewer? And then the question is, who shall pay? And why you see the community balk is the community doesn't want to pay, the existing community doesn't want to pay for new development. They had no problem paying their own way. So now the situation that you have to do is ensure that your SDCs, your system development charges, which cover those type of infrastructure things, are equitable and not prohibitive to the point where you cannot build. And they are. It's amazing the difference. I know when I built here in '94, I think my lot was $30-some thousand. The permits alone now are above $30-some thousand. It's also important as we try to promote this housing that we protect and respect and preserve the existing homeowners. And when you buy a home, it's the single largest investment in your life. It's your refuge. It's what you come to. And with all respect to providing additional housing, we have to be respectful of that. Now, existing developments that have CC&Rs or covenants and restrictions, they may prohibit it. But House Bill 2001 basically stated that new developments can't put those kind of restrictions in place. So new developments are going to allow the additional housing of mixed types, including conversions, duplexes, triplexes, ADUs. In the end, it's about livability. But there's another factor to this. When we're out there searching to grow this community and provide jobs, workforce housing is one of the components. I mean, we need work sites for people to put their factories here. we need a trained workforce, and thank goodness for Clackamas Community College, because we can use that to our advantage. And we need housing. I mean, think of the beauty of not having to commute to work every day. So I'm willing to work within the confines of the law. I think we have the infill component, and we have the expansion or annexation component, and how we do that. And there's so many things linked to that, including preserving our water rights for the city and how to best do that. So it's a complex problem. And I think the city commission, even listening to Commissioner McGriff speak, I know how well-versed we are on it. But again, we've got experts to consult, and we'll follow their lead and try to do the best thing that's equitable to all members of this city. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Frank. I just want to remind the people listening, if you have a question for one of the commissioners, feel free to put it in the Q&A, and I'll do my very best to get to it. I have a couple follow-up questions. I wanted to throw out, and maybe I'll put this to you, Frank and Denyse. You both mentioned, or maybe all of you, you both mentioned the House Bill 2001. Are any of you, are you concerned that that law removing single-family dwellings, how it could affect the historic nature of our historic districts? Frank, I'll go to you first. You're muted, Frank.
We're local because we have an expert here. We have Denyse McGriff, who understands
can
the
just
story
talk
better than anybody else. So I think she'll speak about the restrictions on those type of structures and changing the appearance of historic districts. We have to preserve our historic district because it actually is one of the offerings that's going to come forward as part of our total package.
Mhm.
So as you well know, for those that have nothing to do but watch commission meetings, I'm a strong advocate of home rule, and I know the state keeps making inroads into that. But in this aspect, preserving a historic district, I think we'll be fine. I think we can balance that with HB 2001 because it applies, like I said, it applies in specific areas, new developments, existing developments that do not have covenants and restrictions. And I think Denyse will speak at length about the ability of a historical district to preserve its identity. Thanks.
Okay, Denyse, I don't know about at length, but I'll give you a couple minutes.
Well, it will
You
not
your
be
House
at
Bill
length.
2001 and how it might change the context of a historic district.
I really don't feel that it will change the character of our historic districts. The city of Oregon City has standards and criteria in place for infill development. And I believe that it has been successfully executed by the Historic Review Board over time. I could probably speak at length about some of the incompatible development that might be that's in Kenema, but I'm not really going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. Basically, we have the opportunity in both districts using our standards and criteria to provide for infill development that is compatible with the historic districts. The reason that those are so important, I'll concur with Commissioner O'Donnell, is that it is one of our calling cards. When people come here, they want to see the real Oregon City. They don't want to see reproduced little buildings that are trying to look like historic buildings, but they know they can come here and see where our city took place, where our city formed, and where, we became who we are today. So I don't really see that it's going to be a problem. I think that the staff does a great job in talking to people about what those standards and criteria are, and then it's up to them to really execute that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. Again, I'm going to use that word opportunity to take some of the houses that may be a little bit too big and maybe make 2 units out of them, maybe make 3 units out of them. Again, it gets back to something that all 4 of us have said. It's about the livability of our community. And just because you're in a historic district doesn't mean that you want to keep other people out. We want to bring other people in and make sure that the city's standards and criteria are followed. And that's really that's the crux of it. And I think it's very supportable, and I do support that.
Okay. Jeff, do you have a comment on character of the neighborhoods based on the 2001 bill?
I do, and I think generally speaking, I think Commissioners O'Donnell and McGriff have said what I can agree with. I think that the historical nature of our city is a key component of who and what we are. But I think the piece that we need to continue, and I think is critical in making sure that happens, is in relationship building, right? We need to have relationships with the developers that are working on these things. They need to understand our vision, why that's important to us, right? So if I'm a housing developer and I'm asked to come in and take one of those, hey, I'm going to take this large building, we're going to turn it into 3 units. Cool, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do it within the codes you've defined for me. But if they understand why we want it to look and feel a certain way, our vision and why that's important to us, then not only will they, comply with what's required, but they're going to understand it's important. And if they want to continue to do good business with us, they're going to work that much harder to help achieve that. So I think, House Bill 2001 opens the door. The real work is in developing those relationships and sharing our vision.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Dave, your comments on that question? Oh, you're muted, Dave. Got to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, I clicked unmute, but not in the right spot.
Okay.
Just real quickly, we really need to empower our citizens and our property owners to use their property to the best and highest use. I know of several single-family homes that have been remodeled so that the quote kids can live upstairs. Couples in their probably 40s or 50s, and the parents can live downstairs. So they've effectively been remodeled into a duplex. And there's no reason we can't do that in most areas. Obviously, as everybody said, we want to protect our historic district and not let that be eroded. But like I said, we need to empower our citizens and property owners to use their property. Thank you.
Okay. In just listening to some of the comments today, I have a couple of follow-ups. I understand and hear that we're doing a community outreach on urban renewal. I want to distinguish that visioning process between urban renewal property and private property. And what I'm thinking of is the landfill is a private property, and yet it obviously fits into a bigger vision for the community. I think so. I guess my question is, where does the private sector get to choose what goes on their land? And how does that interface with potentially community vision? So let me see where I started last time. I'm going to go to Jeff first. We're going to go kind of a different order. Jeff, then Denyse, Dave, and then Frank.
We'll see if you stick to that order, Dan. I'll be interested to see how that works out. No, I think it's such a great question, because there is exactly that question of this is my property. What can I do with it? I'm a strong believer that government is not there to tell people what to do. Government is there to serve people. We create plans, we write code that give boundaries to what's going to happen, and that's where I see the role, right? Within those boundaries that are defined, the private property owner gets to make those decisions. Now, are there opportunities for collaboration, for vision sharing? Absolutely, right? I think that's the real work of what we do, and including them in that public process for planning and all of those pieces. But I do not see government's role, specifically city government's role, in any way of telling a private landowner, outside of the boundaries that are defined, what they can and cannot do with their property.
Okay. Frank, same question to you. I'm mixing it up, aren't I? I caught you. You see, you have to unmute yourself.
I was working on that. I was just laughing about the changing the lineup.
I got you. Go ahead.
Well, for those of you that have ever watched a commission meeting, you know that I am a strong advocate of private property rights. And it's not for the city to dictate to a private property owner, how they use it. What it is for the city to do is not put obstructive processes in place that prevent people from moving forward in their planning and permitting and stuff like that. So I feel, you can never dictate to a private property owner, but you have to take into effect, and anyone in the development realm here knows the hoops you have to already jump through, and they involve traffic and other impacts, and traffic being the number one consideration. But I think it's important for government to know its bounds and not overstep them, to respect private property rights, and to facilitate and not discourage development. Now, if you have multiple, the private property market is private property, and as such, it's sacred to me. And I'm going to respect those that choose to place their monies in business ventures they choose to develop. And I will, the safeguards are in place in terms of the impact on the community, and the impact that, do we have the infrastructure to support it? But in the end, private property decisions are private property. Now, as far as supporting those and making them, that's the role of this whole urban renewal thing. And I see that it's supported private property forever. I mean, it supported the storefront grants, which improved our downtown. So government will play a role, but it needs to be respectful of private property decisions and those decisions between private property owners. Thanks.
Okay. Dave. Do you remember the question, or do you want me to repeat it?
No, I got the question, but thanks for offering. I fully support what Frank said. I mean, government regulation and red tape needs to be kept to a minimum. Yes, we want to work with citizens, property owners, other stakeholders to create the best city possible. But we don't want to dictate what and how they do it to a level that is not called for. And I think that's something that we've discovered over the last 20 years, is what's wrong with government and what we don't want to do. So that would be my answer.
Okay, Denyse.
Yes, thank you. When the state of Oregon and its citizens created statewide land use planning, it allowed for county and city governments to determine their comprehensive plans and zoning ordinances. It is a partnership between private property owners and their local government about what can happen on their land and what they can do with it. So it's not a free-for-all. We all have zoning on our property. We all have comprehensive plan designations on our property. And within the range of those particular elements is what we can do, I say we can do with our property. Now, in terms of putting up impediments that slow down development or add additional burdens, I am all for the city doing a periodic review, probably every 2 years during our budget updates, to see what codes and what things we can do to help facilitate development. As many of you know, I've worked on both sides of that counter as a private citizen and as a public employee. And I can't always say to you that sometimes the regulations put in place by the city government or the county government make a lot of sense. So we need to be able to go back and reevaluate those on a very regular ongoing basis to make sure that we are not having impediments. One of my concerns is that our SDC fees, they are pretty darn high. But I also understand with that regard to why they've raised them, but we do have the ability to determine that they need to be lowered. And I think we definitely need to look at that. As Mr. O'Donnell stated, we're looking at some rate reviews right now for storm drainage and for water. And it's about whether or not we can provide the infrastructure for the development that we need. The question gets down to, which we need to hear from you, community, who is going to pay for that? So Frank has already made his opinion known about that, and I concur with him. We all need to help pay our way to a better Oregon City.
Okay, well, I'm going to push back a little bit on impediments, because sometimes the city, I'll say the city gets accused of planning to death. And that planning to death actually can become an impediment. And one thing I've heard today is, and I get it, you want to know what the community thinks. But here we go. If in fact we have people knocking at our door because the economy is hot, interest rates are low, and Oregon City is a viable and a community that a lot of people have their eyes on. And if we have people now willing to step up and actually do projects that have been within the urban renewal district for the last 1,000 years, does doing another study become an impediment if in fact we have buyers at our doorstep? So my question to you is, when do we take advantage of the people that really want to spend money and do something right now versus say, well, wait a minute, we have to go talk about this for 6 months. Isn't the marketplace one thing that we really want? So I know that's a little bit editorial, a little bit of a question, but there's a tension there that I want you to feel. And can you each address that tension between a current offer of interest or buying versus wait, let's study? Let me start. I'm going to go backwards. Denyse, and then Dave, and then if I can remember what I said, Frank, and then Jeff. Okay, Denyse, you first.
Thank you. No, I don't believe in doing studies for study's sake, but I think one of the things that our new economic development manager has said over and over again is that Oregon City has an opportunity to be choosy about who and what and where and when in terms of development. Now, I understand your comment about the market being hot and this and that. Sorry, something just jumped into my screen from somebody. I don't know where that came from.
It's a poll, just ignore it. We can't.
Yeah, it just came on. So anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, so I agree with Mr. Graham to the extent that Oregon City has opportunities, that Oregon City is ripe for opportunity. But I think in our haste in the past, we've made mistakes. I mean, I'll be very critical about the fact that we accepted that McDonald's down at Clackamat Park and they developed, the city allowed them to develop right in the middle of a redevelopable parcel. Now the two parcels on either side, you can't do anything with them. So should we have been a little choosier before we accepted that? We should have said, yeah, we'd love you to come to Oregon City, but we'd like you to be over here because we have plans to redevelop the rest of the property. So that's an example of where I think Oregon City needs to be very proactive and say, like on the 10th and Main project, I supported that. I supported their revision to their plan to say that right now we can't put the housing in. Can we do something else? I think that's an opportunity that we missed. And even though I was on the losing end of that vote, I'm going to do everything I can to work with that development team to try to get that project back on the books, because I think we need that project. It is a critical piece. It is the 100% corner to the entry to the historic downtown. So that's an example of how I feel that we can be really proactive and really move these things forward, because we can't always wait for another plan. I'm anxious about Mr. Graham's economic development plan, and Mr. O'Donnell sits on that committee. So I say, hurry up and get that thing done.
Okay, thanks, Denyse. Dave, the tension between activity that's on your doorstep and planning. And unmute. There you go.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dan, very much for bringing this up, because I think this is one of the central issues in this election. Are we going to let government, there's our poll again, are we going to focus in such a way that, like you said, we study things to death? If we run into a problem, we wait for another study, or are we going to come up with an workable plan? Are we going to consult all the stakeholders? Are we going to design a solution and go forward with it? And if we design that solution and we run into a roadblock, we'll modify it, we'll mitigate it, we'll move forward. That's the small business approach, and that's what I think we need to do. Thank you.
Okay. I said, Frank, I think you're next.
That's twice now you changed the lineup, but I'm good with it.
Really?
I just,
No,
yeah, let's.
I really
put me in the
don't mean
batter's
to be
box.
picking on you if you feel that I am, but
No. Just, why don't you just let me lead off and we'll do this.
go ahead.
I'm from that private business sector, and the private business sector moves quickly, and they do because they're focused on what they want to do, and they're a smaller group, and they've got usually a limited thing, and they got less participants, less groups that are providing input. But I'll tell you, and I studies for studies' sakes, studies that get done and shelved and never used, they are painful to me. And I've seen people that want to study the study, and it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to do something, but by the same token, if a study is dated, it needs to be refreshed to reflect the current situation, because that was then and this was now. Now, if it's not, if some of these things if they're 15 years old, what's the current situation? So the role of the study, I trust, is to preserve livability while encouraging development and to ensure that those who benefit pay. Now, there's going to be a long-term impact to anything we do, but it needs to reflect a long-term vision. We have the single greatest commodity that builders need, which is land. So how do we use it wisely? But to go back to your original question, Dan, studies for study's sake? No, studies that preserve a valuable framework within which we can advance this community and be happy with our end result. I'll buy into that, but don't take forever to do it. Let's move. Those of us in private industry, we struggle with the glacial pace at which government moves, and we'd like to move it quicker and make decisions faster.
Okay,
So that's my answer.
thanks. And
Yep.
my apologies.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to lead off next time. I don't care what it is.
We're almost out of time. You might have just lost it. Jeff, the tension.
Right. So when I look up in a thesaurus, I look up government, I see analysis by paralysis, or paralysis through analysis, right? I mean, that's what we do. And so my point of view, I work for the government. I work for the state of Oregon, right? I mean, you want to talk about a glacial pace. I was going to see if you're going to throw one up. So we all got a poll thrown up. That's fun. Little curveball. But I mean, that's what we do. And I think a lot of it, when I describe it in my work in the state government, is kind of that ivory tower syndrome. We do it with the best of intent, right?
Sure.
We also understand that unlike private industry, we have a responsibility to countless people out there that, the private industry doesn't necessarily. Those are true facts, but that's not an excuse to slow down. I think that there was a great question in the Q&A that I want to kind of address with this answer. And that was, about businesses who've said never again. And I think that the answer is in this. And I think it's about approaching everything, encouraging our staff, the city manager and his staff to look at things through a lens of continuous improvement, right? So I'm trained in Lean and Six Sigma. I know others are as well, but looking at where that value is, right? Is there value in doing another study? If there is, and you can define it, and you can say to a reasonable person, here's why we're doing the study, then do the study, right? But if I can only defend my study with government speak and bureaucracy and stuff, then there's not value there. It's identifying the value and finding that shortest path between A and, hey, I got two there. That's uncool. That's
Two flashes. Stay focused. Here we go.
Right, yeah. But finding that shortest path, right, between here's the opportunity and here's how we can do it in a way that's transparent, in a way that serves the interests of the community, but doesn't just have all that extra stuff that government always feels is so important that really isn't. And so I think encouraging staff to have that mindset, that lean mindset, Kaizen mindset, right, and to relentlessly pursue the elimination of waste in these processes. Everyone benefits from that approach.
Awesome. Okay, I've got to give up my spot here in less than a minute, I think. So I just, you can each kind of get your thoughts together for your closing, and Kent is going to come back and pick the order, because I obviously get messed up on the order. But I just want to personally thank each one of you for being here today, for the answers you've given. I think our city will be well served with any of you, and thank you, those that are serving and those that are running.
And on behalf of the Oregon City Business Alliance, we reiterate everything that Dan just said. We are truly gifted to have 4 candidates running for position 2 and position 3 that have your vision, your willingness to step up, to serve in these volunteer positions, and just your desire. Oops, there's another poll. I
Okay,
get them too. But just your willingness and desire and commitment to go ahead and lift this city up. We always talk about activity breeds activity, and in focusing on the landfill and the north area, which was the focus of our webinar last month, it truly is a tremendous opportunity that Oregon City has to capitalize on that other communities don't. Oh, I got 2 of them as well, Jeff. You're not alone. It'll be interesting to see what the responses are to all those poll questions once we collect all that data. But we do want to go ahead and conclude with our closing statements. And so I think I'll go back to the original order that we began with. We'll start with position 2 and position 3, but I think I will allow the incumbents to go last, just because they've had the opportunity to be there. And I do want to hear the challengers' vision and statements on where you've been, where you're at, and where you're going if you were to be an Oregon City commissioner starting next year. So let's start out with position number 2. And that would be you, Dave?
Yep, just getting unmuted. Well, you know, Oregon City is an incredible city. I grew up here, I moved away, I moved back, and there's, you know, dozens of reasons why I moved back. And, you know, despite the high housing cost here, it's one of the more affordable areas in the metro area. And the city is composed of so many different groups. I mean, we have the historic district, we have all the various neighborhoods, each that is pretty much unique and different in its own way. We have, you know, lower income folks, middle income and upper income. We have business owners, we have employees, we have good sized businesses and small businesses. And what we as a council have to do is we have to build bridges between those different groups. We have to listen to everybody. We have to, you know, listen to everybody and make decisions and, you know, be sure our decisions are right. And there are going to be times when we make mistakes and we're going to have to come back and, you know, revisit it and do better. And that's what I would see my goal as a commissioner would be, to build bridges, to listen to everybody, to be a commissioner for the whole city, not just 1 or 2 neighborhoods, to emphasize, you know, livable wage jobs and affordable housing, and to focus on, like I said, a small business mindset, to build solutions, move forward, and get unstuck. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comments there, Dave.
Thank you.
Denyse, let you unmute yourself and get your closing comments.
Thank you, Kent and Dan and members of the listening audience. I've always wanted to say that. Basically, over the last 1.5 years since my appointment to the commission, I've worked hard on your behalf. If you don't know me and you see me around town, please feel free to come up to me and talk to me. Commissioner Mahoney and I have this thing about aisle 13 and Fred Meyer. I was at Fred Meyer yesterday and had 3 or 4 different conversations with people about issues. We're right now kind of on a cusp. We've got some difficult challenges ahead of us, not only within the city government, but without the city government. We have COVID, we have unprecedented business losses, we have housing issues, but this is still the best place, I think, in the Portland metropolitan area to live. In all my activities, I have put this community first. Oregon City, as I said before, is invested in me, and I'm reinvesting that trust and commitment back to this community. You have my 100% attention. My collaboration with my fellow commissioners shows our teamwork and our desire to help this city change for the better. This volunteer work that we do is not about us, it's about you. So if I'm elected to serve on the city commission, there's a couple of things that I'm hopeful of. I want to create a more welcoming environment through a community-wide diversity, equity, and inclusion lens, and create that conversation citywide. And for our programming changes, I want to talk to people in our community who have been unrepresented in the past and are maybe not so willing to come forward, but we need to reach out to them. I want to work to ensure measured and strategic economic development that boosts livability and job creation in our community. That's priority number one for me. And I want to hold regular community conversations that include those underrepresented voices. I think that you've seen my information online on this chat about what my experience is. I put all that experience and commitment on behalf of you, the residents and business owners and citizens of Oregon City. And that's my commitment to you. So help me make history on November the 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Denyse. We appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to position number 3, and we'll start out with you, Jeff.
Thank you, Kent. And thank you, Dan, Oregon City Business Alliance, for this great opportunity. And I want to start by thanking Commissioners O'Donnell and McGriff for your service. This is a hard job that we're all putting our names in the hat for, and I deeply appreciate and respect the work that you have done for our great city. And thank you, Mr. Hayden, for also putting your name in the hat. Right, this is certainly an experience going through a campaign, and I think that we've been able to have some great conversations about how to move our city forward and to continue some great things that have started. For me, I have I bring a lot to the table. I have a lot of experience in bringing groups together, disparate groups with very different points of view. I believe that people are the most important thing that we have, and being able to create opportunities and spaces, safe spaces and brave spaces for those people to be able to bring their whole selves and their full potential to the city as residents, as people working here, and as people just enjoying the great things that we offer. I've worked hard to better my skill set. I got a certificate from Cornell University in diversity and inclusion to help give me the tools to be a strong ally to people that have been underrepresented and have not had a voice at the table for so very long, and to be able to help create those spaces for them. I'm a husband, I'm a father of a young daughter and I desperately want this to remain a great community that I can raise my daughter in. She steps out of the garage in the morning and she says, "Good morning, Oregon City." And it's because she's got pride in this city. And I want to have the opportunity, I offer myself to be able to bring my skill set in leading, in listening, in building coalition, to be able to really focus on the 3 things, my opinion, the 3 things that make Oregon City so incredible: our history and our heritage, the great people in the community we have, and of course our business, the lifeblood of who we are. So I hope that if you have not voted for the 20% that have not yet, consider Jeff Akin for position 3. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. We appreciate it as well. Okay, Frank, you get to bat cleanup here for our group.
That's a change. Quite honestly, I'm the incumbent. I've been there this 4 years, and those who watch know what I'm about. I mean, what you see is what you get. And yeah, I do understand that government is somewhat different than business because of all the user groups. But I also understand that everybody out there, are the shareholders, and we take direction from you. So I'm fortunate, I have both my, did I lose you?
Nope, we're still here.
Okay, the screen went dark. I'm fortunate I have both my education, which is 6 years, and I did not spend them all in the first grade, that bachelor's degree and that associate degree. They served me well. I've got this wealth of experience, and for a business community, you understand that better than anybody. I can always say we're at a critical juncture in time, and it seems like that's what we said last time I ran, and we are. But it's important to have a known quantity, to have continuity, people you trust, people you know, people who have formed relationships, because everything in life is relationship based. I know what this commission's done. I hope you know what it's done. To this business community, I hope you know we're business friendly. We are trying to facilitate not only your survival, but your growth. We've tried to form a welcoming commission, which is more welcoming than ever. I'm very pleased with that. And we're also trying to strike a balance between growth and livability. And I'm going to give up a little bit of my time because there's something for this business group that I want them to be aware of, because I think that we as a city fail somewhat in our communications. And I'd like to see all our organizations work together, whether it be DOCA, OCBA, Chamber of Commerce. But there's a program out there right now, new business owners, if you don't know about it, it's called Reimagine Oregon City. And I struggled to find it on the website, but please Google it, because there's money out there available to you up to $60,000. And it's to expand your business footprint, whether it's expand your business, expand your website, make your website in there. Please take advantage of these monies, and call Mr. James Graham and beat him until he gives you all the information if you can't find it, because we're here to help you. So I realize I took some of my personal time for that, but I think it's so important to get that message out. So I'm here to work for you. It's a volunteer position. I'm fortunate that I finally retired. And believe me, this is a job in and of itself, between reading, trying to get knowledgeable, consulting with experts, going on site visits, and visiting with citizens. But in the end, I'm really proud of this commission, and keep them as a whole. I mean, I'll pull for everyone up there when the time comes, and keep Commissioner McGriff, because she's worth her weight in gold. I even put up with her long stories, but keep her. So thanks. Look at my website, Frank for OC, and you get a good look at who I am. Thank you, everyone. And thanks, OCBA.
You bet. No, it's our pleasure, Frank. And again, we appreciate each one of the candidates being with us today. We also want to thank all the participants that registered and attended today's webinar. I think there were some great ideas that were shared by all of the candidates. And I think we got to see the differences that some of them might have as well. That's what this is all about, is being able to make fair choices based upon where you want the direction of our city to go in. But I think we would be well taken care of if any of you are, well, obviously 2 of you will be selected, but whoever is chosen, I think will be in good hands. With that being said, next month will be our last webinar for the year. We don't do one in December because it's so close to the Christmas holidays, the 4th Tuesday of the month. So we reached out to the county commissioners to kind of take it to another level here as to how is Clackamas County dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic testing? How are they dealing with helping families that have been impacted by the wildfires throughout our county? What economic development grants, loans, other types of programs like Reimagine Oregon City that Commissioner O'Donnell just talked about? What can the county offer local businesses to keep their doors open? And then we're just going to leave it up to them to come up with additional topics. Obviously, workforce housing, the homelessness situation. We're going into the cold weather months. What can we do to try to address that? So that'll be on November 24th at our usual time, 11:30 to 1. So we'll be sending out an e-invitation to everyone to go ahead and sign up and register for that. With that being said, we did send out the flyer for the community outreach on urban renewal for the 29th to our membership already. James Graham was great in getting that put together quickly, so we could get that out. I hope you do get a great response, because urban renewal is one of those topics that I think everybody needs to have a little better understanding as to how that can be utilized in its best possible way to help jumpstart new development. So again, thank you for everybody for joining us today. We got some sunny weather the rest of this week, a little nippy, but for now, I'll take it over pouring down rain. So take care, wash your hands, wear your mask, and make sure you vote. Bye-bye.